This right here is one of my dividend growth portfolios that's currently valued at around $540,000. Now this is a portfolio I've been building out for several years now, but this portfolio definitely has a specific strategy that's near and dear to my heart and that matches exactly my risk profile and everything else. Now in this video, we're going to go through this portfolio. I'm going to share with you some of my top holdings, and then later on in the video, I'm going to share with you exactly how much dividend income this portfolio is producing on a monthly and on a yearly basis. Now stick around because I want some feedback and want to know what you guys think about my portfolio as it sits as of current. I have some huge news to share with you guys. My brand new dividend investing ebook and custom dividend tracker that I've been working on for weeks now is finally done. So go ahead and grab a copy down below. It's the first link in my description. Thank you in advance, and let's get right into the video. So the portfolio as of right now is made up of different stocks and ETFs, with the majority of the portfolio being the 1,000 shares of Apple stock that I bought several years ago at around $118 per share that are currently valued at just under $200,000, which is pretty awesome. The portfolio then has a ton of things like Realty income, 930 shares to be exact. We have things like Devo ETF, we have 1,000 shares of Verizon. I have tons of other covered call ETFs like JEPI, JEPQ, with some more single stocks like JP Morgan, Enterprise Products, and even blue chip names like UPS, WP Carey, and others. But my specific strategy for this portfolio in particular is to buy dividend paying stocks and or ETFs that in general are relatively low beta, but also hopefully pay more and more in dividends over time. And although there are certain names in here that definitely are not going to do that, names like QYLD, for example, which is probably going to be paying the same dividend next month as it's going to pay the next month after that. There's also names in here like the 209 shares of SHD ETF, which hopefully will continue to pay more and more in dividends as the years go on. Now, before we go any further and I show you all the dividend income that this portfolio produces over time, I want to hear what you guys think down below this portfolio and be completely brutally honest. What do you think about the portfolio as it sits right now? And what's your number one favorite position that I hold as of currently? So now we get to the fun part. How much in dividends does this portfolio pay me, at least estimated on a yearly basis, on a monthly basis, etc.? Now the portfolio as it sits right now pays out around $26,000, give or take. Some of these are going to be estimated, so they're not going to be exactly correct. But the portfolio, generally speaking, pays me on average around $2,000 per month, more or less. Now the portfolio's average dividend yield throughout everything is around 4.75%, which would most likely be much higher if I didn't have such a high concentration in the shares of Apple. But my biggest dividend payers in this portfolio as it sits as of current are from my 680 shares of JEPI, which pay me roughly $3,000 per year in estimated annual income. Then of course we earn a ton of monthly dividend income from our 930 shares of Realty income, around $2,800 per year. Our next biggest payer is my 1,000 shares of Verizon, which pays around $2,660 per year in dividends. Then QYLD pays around $2,000. We have the Devo ETF that pays around $1,800. Then we have things like JEPQ that pays around $1,500 more or less, BST that pays around $1,500, EPD pays almost $1,200, and so on and so forth throughout the entire portfolio. Now, as you see throughout this portfolio, there's certain names that are yielding super high, like the TSLY ETF, which I do own 80 shares of, believe it or not, which as of current trailing 12 months has like a crazy 60, 70, or 80% dividend yield. But as you can see, basically anything that's over 12% dividend yield, I only own a few shares of. So the majority of this portfolio is still invested into relatively lower yielding stocks or ETFs, although I definitely do have some riskier, higher yielders mixed in here. Now, like I sort of mentioned earlier, my strategy with this portfolio is to build out a portfolio that's pretty low beta because for me personally, I'm a pretty risk averse investor. I really don't like seeing my portfolio whiplash back and forth. So by having the majority of the names in this portfolio with a beta less than 1, the portfolio is pretty stable even on crazy green days or crazy red days. Now, on top of that, I would consider myself more of a dividend growth focused investor. So like we talked about earlier, I do want to own different stocks and or ETFs that do pay dividends and that hopefully grow their dividends over time. But I also do want to see some price appreciation from some of the names in my portfolio also. But speaking of dividend growth, one of my main positions that I've been building out as of recently in my portfolio is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, because as of right now, this portfolio as it sits currently, I think the portfolio is pretty well diversified. We have tons of different names in the portfolio. We have names that are high yielders, low yielders, and we also have some super anchor names that are going to be in the portfolio probably until forever. So that being said, I've been building out my SCHD position because I do only have 209 shares of it in this portfolio. And the idea behind that is that SCHD isn't super high beta, so it's not really going to whiplash my portfolio necessarily on a daily basis if we do see some volatility in the market. but it is still going to hopefully consistently move up in price over time, and the overall portfolio will hopefully follow. So this right here is one of my largest long-term dividend growth portfolios made up of different stocks and ETFs that I've been sort of collecting for years now. Now, out of all these different holdings, you can sort of get an idea of where I'm kind of investing more and less into. And as time goes on and as I get a little bit older, I have been more and more interested in investing into some of the ETFs, like the SHD ETF, for example, or even things like Devo. But that being said, I'll always have other larger satellite positions like Realty Income, which I own a ton of. And with owning a ton of Realty Income, even though it is a single stock, by selling covered calls on it, I do limit some of the downside, but also have a limited upside potential. But for me being more of a risk-averse, more conservative, sort of scaredy cat investor, it works out pretty good for me. Now, the last thing I'll mention is that I am planning on moving a lot of things around in this portfolio come very soon here. So if you want to stay up to date with all that, make sure to please drop a like down below and subscribe to see my next moves, because I promise you some of these moves might be shocking. Now, lastly, just for some more transparency and just to share with you guys what it looks like sort of under the hood in this portfolio, I want to show you all the dividends that I was paid at least so far year to date, which now we're pretty close to the end of the year, so we have received plenty of dividends over time. Now, some of the dividends in this portfolio do of course pay out on a monthly basis and some pay out quarterly, but this portfolio has brought in tons of dividend income, which has only grown over time as I've continued to reinvest the dividends into more different dividend paying stocks and ETFs, and of course as I've been able to make more contributions, etc. But it's pretty crazy to even look through certain names that I've been adding a lot of over the last year. Like take Realty Income for example. Back in January of this year, Realty Income was paying me $142. Then back in February, $144. And then over time throughout reinvesting into more shares of Realty Income and buying more Realty Income during crazy dips, etc. throughout the year, along with Realty Income raising their dividend, which they've done several times so far this year. Now, as of recently, the last dividend paid from Realty Income, $235. And that's just for a single position in the portfolio. Now, the idea is that over time, as I get more and more shares of things like Realty Income, for example, or even shares of like Devo or SHD, I'll just continue to build up positions that pay more and more on a monthly or quarterly basis, reinvest those dividends, and then hopefully sometime in the future, like 5 years from now, I'll have more than enough dividend income to cover all my bills and all my life expenses, and hopefully even a little bit more than that. But I promise you, if you're just getting into dividend investing, it's worth it to stay the course. If you look back to 2021 in this portfolio, which is just a few years back, but it just sort of goes to show on how long I've been really working at this. Back in 2021, I was earning $93 per month from Realty Income, which I was honestly thrilled about. It's almost $100 per month from just a single position. And keep in mind, this is already several years of me building out this position. This is not the first year. All the way to the point to where at the end of the year in 2021, I surpassed $100 in dividends on a monthly basis. But just like I showed you a second ago, now I'm up to $235 or somewhat on a monthly basis in this portfolio alone when it comes to one position. And hopefully that's only going to keep raising, and hopefully we're only going to keep growing from here. So there we have it, a look inside of my $540,000 dividend growth portfolio, how much I'm currently earning in dividends on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, and even a little sneak peek in some specific dividends paid to me. When it comes to dividend growth investing, what is the number one position, whether it's a stock or ETF, that you've been trying to build out like crazy over last year? Drop the ticker in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like in it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.